to ANPC webinar on the topic of advocacy. The title of the webinar today is Affiliates Standing Up for Advocacy. The session will discuss TCell affiliate network organizations' varied approaches to advocacy on current social issues. Affiliate leaders will discuss their efforts towards building resilient communities. Audience members will gain a better understanding of policies that can support their affiliate in its future advocacy work. So we have a panelist of 6 here today, and Jim is going to be the moderator of the session. And after we are finished with the presentation, you are free to ask questions to our panelists here. Over to you, Jim.
Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate that. And I'm just going to share my screen here. Find it. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We've had the opportunity to do this presentation once before at the Advocacy Summit, and it went over very well there, and we wanted to make sure that that we offered this as widely and as readily as we possibly could for affiliate leaders and future affiliate leaders, so that everyone could benefit from really all of the wonderful advocacy policies and documents that you're going to hear more about today. And so I am very pleased to be able to invite back all of our wonderful speakers. As you can see here, we are going to be, I think, really informed today by a number of very different advocacy policies, and hopefully it sparks some interest in you and some ideas of how you can take these ideas back and adopt them in your affiliate. So what I'd like to do is give everyone maybe an opportunity to first introduce themselves. And so as Lynn was saying, we have with us 6 panelists here today. And maybe what I'll do is I'll start by asking Erin if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and the affiliate that you're from.
Certainly. My name is Erin Ross, and I am the current president for Northern New England TCell, which represents Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont in the United States. So the very, very far northeast of the U.S. And as outside of the NNET Soul, I work for the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants. So in a big refugee resettlement program here near Burlington, Vermont.
Thank you, Erin. That was great. We also have Jorge with us today. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Hello, everyone. My name is Jorge Torres. I am from Tampico, Mexico. I am a member of Bctl. I have been in Bctl for a couple of years. I was the national secretary 2 years ago. Right now, I am in charge of one of the publications in Bctl, which is Bctl Press. I'll tell you more about this publication later today. Bctl is one of the biggest teachers associations in Latin America. We have quite a good number of members here in Mexico and from other countries. And right now, as I told you, I'm working on this Bctl Press publication, but also helping the national board to organize our next convention, which is going to take place in November. Thank you.
Awesome. I hope everyone marks their calendar down for that. It's going to be a wonderful event, I'm sure. Next, we have a duo with us. So maybe Gerard and Annie, if one of you would like to introduce yourselves, that would be great.
Okay, I'll start. My name is Jorge Mclaughlin. I'm the current president of TCell Spain. TCell Spain is a fairly large organization in Spain. We've got about 650 members all over Spain. And I'm happy to share what we're working on at the moment. And we've also got a convention coming up in March next year.
Hi, and I'm Annie Altamirano. I'm currently the Vice President and External Liaison Officer of TCell Spain. And as Jared has said, we have a convention coming up in March. and the call for papers is open. So I will be sharing the link to our page later on so that those people who are interested can have a look at what we're doing at call for papers, and we hope to see some familiar teacher association members sending proposals. Thank you.
Thank you. And Cindy, maybe we'll get you to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Cindy Jones. I'm from Bctl in the beautiful British Columbia, which is having a heat wave right now. I'm speaking to you this morning from the unceded territories of the Musqueam people. And Bctl has been around for over 50 years, and we're working on a number of things. I'm really excited to tell you about all the things we're doing here. So welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Cindy, and welcome to you as well. And last but certainly not least is Jennifer, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thank you, James. I'm Jennifer Pendergrass. I'm the current president of Georgia TCell here in the United States. We've engaged in advocacy work for the first time in several years, so I'm excited to share a little bit about that with you. I've been active in Georgia TCell for quite a few years now. I served as regional liaison for 2 years, and then secretary, then first vice president, second vice president, and so I guess I'm running out of roles. But anyway, I'm so glad to be here.
Well, it's certainly, we're glad to have you, and we're glad to have all the panelists here. It's really wonderful to see such diversity. I'll just, in case anybody missed those affiliate organizations, this is the representation that we have today from our panelists, and we're very grateful to everyone for being able to come out and talk a little bit about all the great things that you're doing. And I think we can maybe dive right into some of the questions. And what I'll do is I'll put this up here for just a little bit, but I think it's important to maybe stop sharing so that everybody can see you as you talk. So I'll share the screen as we go from question to question, maybe, if that's okay. The first question that we have is, of course, what issue have you been working towards in terms of advocacy? And so we'd love to hear. Maybe we can go in reverse order this time. And so if I can start with Jennifer, what issues have you been working towards with your advocacy?
So Georgia's faced some unique challenges this year with the pandemic. In our English language proficiency testing for K-12, we were being required to test at the time that the pandemic was, numbers were at an all-time high here. And that requires teachers to be in unsafe situations and to put students in less safe situations as well, combining students from multiple homes and classrooms that don't normally have exposure to each other, taking the speaking test where, you're not able to mask properly or have as many people in the classroom. So we just needed more time for testing, some flexibility there. And that's really what nudged us back into advocacy. Georgia TCell hadn't really been in advocacy for a while, but that was our first issue. We've also addressed some AAPI discrimination concerns on our campuses around Georgia. And we discovered in a town hall meeting that the Board of Regents has asked Georgia colleges and universities to limit the number of hours required to earn a teaching degree. And as a result of that, what was happening widely is that those universities and colleges were deciding that multilingual learner preparation was the class that was disposable. So that has been a big issue here as well. We've done lots of advocacy work in that area.
Oh, well, thank you for that. And maybe we can turn over to Cindy. I know that you've done a lot with Bctl as well.
Yeah, we've been working on advocacy for quite a long time. One thing that is different in Canada than in some of the other organizations is that Bctl doesn't deal with the K-12 system. We do have some K-12 members, but there is a separate organization that they belong to. We've worked primarily in two ways. We've worked with resources and initiatives. So we have a number of open source resources that are available, including resources for teachers to use in the classroom, but also academic resources. We have a journal We have a newsletter, and we keep building on those resources. We also have a number of initiatives that we work on. We have the Teal Charitable Foundation, which is a funded organization that provides scholarships to immigrant students, immigrant refugee students, but also provides grants to teachers who want to produce projects that fit within the scope of the awards. We have an advocacy committee. One of our big initiatives over the last few years has been the Respectful Interactions Guidelines that the advocacy committee brought forward. I'll tell you more about that a little later. And then in 2020, in response to the Black Lives Matter movement, we created a motion that really focused on getting more diversity into the organization, and particularly into the leadership in the organization. So it's been a busy year in my first year as president.
I'm sure it has, and I think that's particularly valuable, that we've heard from so many different organizations over the last year that, turnover on the board has been difficult. And so, having a policy like that that encourages diversity, I think is really interesting, and probably long-term will help, build up the skill set and the members. So I think that's really fantastic. I know that Gerard and Annie, that you've also got a couple of really interesting projects on the go, and maybe if we could turn it over to you to a little bit about them.
Okay, Mr. President, you first.
Okay. I mean, I think the big thing for us is working and ensuring that there are opportunities for all teachers, and especially for teachers whose first language is not English. That is quite a big issue here in Europe, and I'm sure it's also true in the rest of the world. But we do stand in opposition against any discrimination for any teachers for the national background, the ethnic background. And in that respect as well, we've been working with an organization in Poland that's called Tesol Equity Advocates. And Annie actually did an interview with them. And maybe I'll hand over to you, because one other thing is that I think as well is that our board and also the members is made up of so many different people. And I think the important thing is that everyone is allowed a voice, regardless of their background, regardless of their color, regardless of their first language. And we need to encourage that, not only on the board with our members, but also in the teaching in our communities.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think it was in 2015, right, Gerard, that we issued our statement, a public statement, which you can see on our website, standing up against any sort of discrimination at the time. That is, in Spain, it's quite common for managers to hire teachers according to passport. And well, only this past week, I saw a comment, somebody saying that they'd rather hire teachers from Eastern Europe because they cannot find suitable teachers in Spain, which I absolutely condemn, because that is not true. I know a lot of teachers who are really very good, and so TCell Spain stands up against that. And any kind of discrimination. And the other big issue for us is the green issue. For many years now, we have been working hard towards trying to make our conferences and our regional events greener. So we no longer publish our volume of selected articles and selected papers on paper. It's published as a PDF online. The program for our conference is online, goes online. And for many years now, we have been requesting speakers to send their handouts for conferences and regional events in PDF format, so that they can be uploaded to the website, to a special site on our website, a special tab, where attendees can download them so as to minimize the consumption of paper And in the last few conferences, for example, all the paper, plates, glasses, everything is real. It's not, nothing is plastic. We've been having, instead of plastic bottles, Express Publishing, one of the sponsors, sponsored bottles, crystal bottles for all participants so that they wouldn't be buying or getting plastic bottles for water. We had water fountains in all the premises during the convention. So we are working hard and trying also to get the publishers to minimize the amount of paper that they spend during conferences.
It's just a wonderful initiative as well, and I think more of us should really put that forefront. And it's wonderful that you've been doing this for so many years, Annie and Gerard. It's really something good to see, and I think the fact that it's on the main part of your webpage is just shows the level of commitment that you've made to this green initiative. So thank you for talking about that. Maybe Jorge, if we could ask you next.
Yeah, thank you. Well, as I told you before, I am in charge of this new publication in Mclaughlin, which is Mclaughlin Press. The idea is to motivate and invite teachers teaching in Mexico to get published. And this is a new opportunity for them. We have a committee. We are supposed to check and review all the proposals we get. And then after that, we decide which ones can be published. We have received a lot of proposals from different states here in Mexico, a lot of teachers. And the idea, as I told you, is to motivate the normal teachers, the classroom teachers, to publish, to share experience and ideas. That's one of the points I want to share today. Another one is what we are doing in our convention. We are trying to find a balance between the number of male and female speakers, but also native and non-native speakers in our convention. So we want an equal or more or less equal number, right? And the other one is that Mclaughlin is also helping teachers here in Mexico to get standardized English level certificate, because the Ministry of Education demands teachers in all Mexico to have this document. It's an official document we get once we present a standardized test. So Mclaughlin has an agreement with an international organization, and we get a kind of good discount for our members and non-members, so they can sit for the exam, get the results, and then get the official document from the Ministry of Education here in Mexico. That's some of the three issues we are right now working. As I told you, in my case, mainly on the publication of this magazine for teachers.
Well, that's fantastic, and the magazine really is wonderful. But I think it's really interesting the concerns that you have around equity and making sure that there's a balance between the genders, but also as you term it, native versus non-native speakers as well. I think that's fantastic. And Aaron, I don't mean to leave you last, but very interested in hearing about Northern New England as well.
Well, thank you. For those that don't know much about this region of the United States, it is demographically very homogeneous. It is our populations in the 3 states. It's quite low density population. I think certainly, the whole of Vermont is only 600,000 people, so that's smaller than many cities. But it's also, really overwhelmingly Caucasian, people demographic. And so there are really interesting and challenging issues that arise with our very well-established refugee resettlement programs in all 3 states. Also, we're very agricultural states, so we have a lot of migrant workers that are parts of our communities. And so there are a real variety of English language learning context for our K through 12 teachers, and also international students, because that come to all of our universities. So it makes for a really, actually quite a diverse group of members for NNET Soul as teachers and those that are interested in these issues. And for NNET Soul, we have really in the past not issued any advocacy statements. That just hadn't been our focus. And back in the spring, when there were, in March, when there was the murders, the mass murders, the shootings in Atlanta that involved so many Asian American victims. And then, with the parallel of the George Floyd murder trial, the board decided that we really needed to take the time and effort to write a statement condemning violence and hatred against people of color. And so we brought together a lot of different voices on the board to do just that. And so back in April, we did issue this first advocacy statement, and it was a really unifying action for the board. And so it has been a very motivating way to encourage the diverse voices that come from and that are represented by our different board members. I know we'll have an opportunity to talk a little bit later about what we're doing in the future, but this action in the spring really informed our planning for our fall conference and for our ongoing efforts to ensure that our board, our affiliate board, is well, represents different voices in our professional community, and both sort of ethnically and from non-native and English speakers. So it's been a very motivating time for our board. And I think we still have Cindy, right?
No, we've now gone through the panel there, but thanks, Aaron, for answering that question. And I think I'll just pull up the screen share again here so we can see the questions, and I'll turn it over to Lynn to ask the next one.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the next question to the panelists here. What impacts have you seen from your advocacy efforts? And maybe I'm just looking at the screen. I will ask Jorge first.
Okay. Well, as I told you, we are looking for this balance in our speakers at the convention. Last year, we got an international recognition, the Equal Voices in ELT EVE. We got the Platinum EVE, and that was wonderful. It's the first time Bctl gets an international recognition, and this was thanks to this organization we had, getting a balance between, as I told you, native and non-native speakers, male and female. Also, in regarding the publication, as I told you before, we have got in a way to motivate lots of teachers. These teachers usually don't publish articles in any magazine because they think that what they do is irrelevant. But believe me, we have got a lot of wonderful, interesting proposals, and they are beautiful. So I guess we are achieving a lot. As I told you, I mean, Gerald said something about giving a voice to everyone, and that's what we are doing with this publication, giving a voice to these teachers who otherwise will be just in the classroom and keeping their ideas for themselves, and sharing is the most important in this case.
Yeah, thank you. That's wonderful when you want the balance and you have the balance, and also giving voices to teachers. And I really love the term practitioner or scholar, and it seems like you're encouraging that kind of scholarship. So Aaron?
So one of the things that we have recognized is that because so many of our discussions were happening during the pandemic, and as a big tri-state, or as a small but tri-state affiliate, we really only have the opportunity to come together in person at our annual conference. And the conference in 2020 went virtual, and the conference for 2021 will also be virtual. And so we have determined that we really need to focus for our 2021 conference on getting this word out that NNET Soul is interested in advocating not just for national issues that rise, but also to ensure that the 3 different states have an opportunity to really synthesize issues that are of concern for their particular context. And so we did make a decision for our fall conference, which is November 6th. I know there are other affiliate conferences at that time, but to focus on social justice and anti-racist pedagogy. And in order to support that, we've invited Ryoko Kubota, who is from the University of British Columbia. So I'm sure that Cindy knows her well. And she has been, she is of Japanese origin. She's been really faithful to this idea of representing indigenous communities and assisting teachers in being how to actually take action to be respectful. So not just to talk about respecting indigenous people or non-native English speaking teachers, or the different cultures of our various immigrant communities in these North American countries, but to be able to take action. And so we're really looking forward to having her be our keynote speaker in November, and to help to spread that influence to our affiliate members, and to sort of carry forward that enthusiasm for action. So.
Yeah, thank you. I took notes of that. It seems like advocacy is about taking actions, and it seems that your affiliate is taking some action to push people to take more action. So thank you for that. And Gerard, your turn.
Hi, just switch my, yeah, I suppose one of the things that is kind of coming off what Jorge was saying as well is that we've also been working ensuring that our lineup of plenary speakers and speakers at all the conferences, there is a balance of non-native and native speakers. And we've also had badges from EVE organizations since 2020, 21 and 22. And also we're encouraging, we've been working a lot with the Tesol organization in the UK with one of their special interest groups on inclusion and special education needs, and trying to encourage some of our speakers and plenary speakers to talk about issues that are affecting people who have special education needs. And I suppose that is the area that we're interested in, and the title of our next convention is The World of Diversity. And we're trying to encourage that all members of our community are encouraged to participate, but also that we're raising awareness within our students and our teachers of the different needs of people who have special education needs. Annie, anything else you would like to add for us?
Yes, another thing that we are also trying to do from TCell Spain is because of the pandemic and the pressure the pandemic has put on teachers, regardless their passport, but trying to take care of or helping teachers take care of themselves. So last year, we organized a series of webinars on well-being and mindfulness for teachers, and also for teachers to use in their classrooms, virtual or hybrid or whatever. So I think that has been having an impact on our membership. And as regards the green policy, I think that it has been, all the moves we have been making towards making our conventions greener have been very well received. And teachers are becoming, at least in Spain, I think, teachers are becoming more conscious, more environmentally conscious. And they are, I think that it's getting an impact, it's having an impact because they are sort of expecting us to do certain things. They have become a bit demanding, let's say. So they are expecting us not to just say that we want to be greener or we don't want to discriminate, but actually to do things, to take action.
I'd like to just add as well, there is an organization in Spain which is called ELT Footprint, who are working towards helping teachers and students become more green. And so we are working very closely with them to kind of instigate and develop new policies to ensure that our conventions and students are aware of green issues.
Actually, one of our board members is one of the co-founders of ELT Footprint, Carrie Jones. Yeah. So we are very, very much into that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm just so happy to hear about green again, because we did have a very interesting session about how we can organize conferences in a green way. And we talked about maybe regional hubs so that people can still meet one another, but fly a little bit less. So thank you for sharing. And Cindy.
There we go. So one of the things that we've been working on, we have now passed the motion, but now we need to institutionalize it and put it into our processes as our respectful interactions guidelines. And they summarize as engaging and speaking and questioning respectful and appropriate ways, considering the implications that your comments or remarks have on others, taking responsibility for your actions, acting in a collegial manner. And all of this is aimed at supporting a dynamic and engaging dialogue. So we've cooked this into many of our processes. One of the things we'll do is at the beginning of the conference, at the beginning of many of the sessions, we read through these guidelines just to remind people of how they should be interacting. We also have, it's been really, really good for the volunteers. When we had our virtual conference this year, all of the volunteers have to agree to follow these, and people that register for the conference also agree to follow them. And so if there is a problem in a session, and people in BC are nice, the thing about Canadians is true, for the most part, we're very polite, but we have disagreements and we have differences, and we want to be able to talk about those in a productive manner. So the volunteer can just contact the ombudsperson. The ombudsperson will contact the offending person privately and say, please remember to follow the respectful interactions guidelines. This is your first warning. And after 3 warnings, they know they will be booted out of the conference. We've also been able to build this into our HR policy. So with the way we interact with our employees, it's become part of that. We built it into all of our board interactions. It was a long process to get to it, but it has proven to be very, from an organizational standpoint, a very useful document, in that it gives us all a common framework as to the types of interactions we want to have with each other. Some of the impacts of it, we have had people who we've had to say they didn't want to agree to follow these guidelines because they don't agree with certain things. We've had to say, we'd love to have you attend, but you can't be a volunteer at this time. sorry, a plane just went by my window as I was talking. So it's had a number of impacts. The thing about doing this is that it took a long time to get it into place, and collaboration takes time, but it was really, really worth it, because in the process of developing it, all of the voices had an opportunity to be heard. We had town halls with it. We took it to conferences. I think James mentioned he was at a conference where we were actually going over this and presenting it to the membership for the first time. So it's been a powerful tool for our organization.
Yeah, thank you. That's wonderful. I learned that sometimes you have to make policies and people will follow. So again, it's about taking action, making change. So Jennifer?
Thank you, Lynn. So I just want to be very vulnerable with you as I talk about the kind of effects that we've seen. I mentioned that Georgia TCell for several years had been out of advocacy work, and when we decided we were a new board. We were just elected in October, and by early December, it was clear that we needed to take action on some things. And when we did step out, previous leaders of the organization reached out with concern that we were taking missteps and we didn't need to be involved in advocacy. It could be a political misstep in the state and those kinds of things. And I'm not going to lie, I worried about it, but I worried on the inside and on the outside. I said, I feel like we need to have a voice here, so we're going to carefully have a voice. But yeah, there was some pushback even on getting started with it. And because that was the previous leadership, I really didn't have anyone to go to ask advice on how to start here in the state. And I reached out to David Cutler at TCell International, who at that time was over advocacy, and he gave me, some models to follow. And even they were working on the same issue, that state testing flexibility for WIDA states. So he actually said, well, hold on, I'm about to publish, and then you can cite this in your letter. So that was a great help to us. But we've tried several different things, just taking baby steps, and some have been more effective than others. So I think that's how I'd like to answer this question. One of the things that we wanted to make sure that we're doing is hearing from the membership so that we know what issues we need to have a voice on. And so we tried first a town hall meeting, and it was public and it was recorded, and state officials were there, and teachers were there, and parents were there, and students were there. And we found out just tips of the icebergs on things that we needed to work on. And one of those that's where we found out that many colleges and universities are making the decision. They were at that time making the decision to eliminate multilingual teacher preparation. And so had we not had those town halls, that wouldn't have come out. And it came from some college professors who were bold enough to say just a little bit in that meeting. But what we knew we needed was a deeper understanding. So we held a private invitation roundtable discussion where we just invited those key campus people from the Georgia campuses to a closed session. It was not recorded, and really had a frank discussion about what was happening, what they were having to do to advocate, and what Georgia TCell's advocacy could do to support that. And all of that had to happen really quickly because those decisions were being made right then. And some of the things that came from there were, that we needed to advocate to the colleges and universities immediately because they were making those decisions. But then we needed to advocate to our Professional Standards Commission, who was even allowing this to happen by not having a standard for multilingual education in K-12. So we knew we had steps to take, and that was empowering. So all of the issues that we've done advocacy work on, we've done a publicly published direct letter to a body, and that was to our State Department of Education. And that was effective in two ways. We were not the only organization that actually advocated to them. So I'm not trying for Georgia TCell to take credit for what came out, but they did end up giving us flexibility to test in a more safe manner. But another outcome of that is that the State Department reached out to us and thanked us for the way in which we advocated and wanted to set up a meeting for how we can continue to collaborate going forward. So it actually strengthened our relationship with our State Department of Education, which was a great outcome as well. Teachers from around the state, of course, expressed their gratitude for us speaking out on behalf of them. The reason that issue even came to our attention is because several district coordinators had already reached out to the Department of Education and been denied the flexibility. So no one here had a voice until all of a sudden there was a bigger voice speaking for them. And I think that's the most important thing, the takeaway from advocacy, is that lots of times they won't listen to one or two people, but they will listen to a body of people. And we've also done a couple of published statements. And I will say that we had the same kind of benefit of people feeling support. Our members reached out and thanked us for making those statements, but it didn't help us build any relationships with any policymakers or decision makers. So in reflecting on those two different methods, that's the outcome. And then we also published, in conjunction with our outreach to the Professional Standards Commission, we published a video set to music with some passionate quotes from K-12 teachers and administrators on how they view multilingual preparation and the need for it and what their experience has been. Were they prepared? And it was a very passionate thing. And we just published maybe 3.5, 4-minute video. And that actually, we sent it to the PSC accompanying their letter, but we also published it on social media and sent it out to the membership, put it in the newsletter. And what that did is spark lots of conversation about a topic that just a couple of months before even we didn't know about. And so it's brought, I think, a spotlight to that issue. And I'm hoping that eventually trickles into some effect on that issue with the Professional Standards Commission.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. Baby steps, but big impacts at the end. So we appreciate hearing from you. So George, do you have some answers? Okay, so George is going to talk later. So back to Jim to ask the next question.
Thank you. There, let me just call it up here. And you know, I think this event where we have a variety of affiliates being able to talk a little bit about what they've done, it has been very useful. One of the things that we want to do as the Affiliate Network and Professional Council is to help connect affiliates from all over the world to collaborate and share with each other. It's been wonderful to see all of the links that you know, our speakers today have been putting in the chat, which I hope all of you, you know, who are here with us today will take a look at. If you're looking to, you know, maybe write some of those policies yourself, that might be a good starting place. You know, I think the next question maybe really will help those that are thinking about this. I saw in the chat a few people were saying, oh, we really need that in our organization. And so maybe in the interest of time, I'll just open it up to the group, whoever would like to talk about it. Is there a recommendation or suggestion that any of you have about how you can go about starting to tackle some of these issues? And I'll just throw it out to whoever feels comfortable to speak on it. Aaron?
I could certainly say, I think it was, rather than trying to get a big board consensus to begin an advocacy statement, it really grew out of a conversation as we were trying to, well, to start, as president, I was trying to leave more time during our board meetings so that we could actually have conversations, raise issues, have it be more interactive and not just a reporting exercise. And so I guess I would encourage other affiliates, other groups to take advantage of when an issue or a topic comes up and a member shows enthusiasm, let them run with it. You know, so basically one of our board members said, this really matters to me. And he made a first draft and then gave it to the whole board and said, I want your impact, you know, your input. And, you know, he talked to other people that he was teaching with, and it developed in a very organic way. And I would just say, you know, if we have to look for the consensus to start something, there's so many hurdles. So it was basically somebody was willing to go with it and bring it back, and then it grew into something that everybody was behind, and everyone felt that their voice had been heard, and then it was published. So I would encourage you, you know, to take advantage of that kind of thing.
I think that's good advice. And Jorge, I see you've got your hand up there. So
Yes, thank you. Well, I just wanted to say that we need time for changes. So my recommendation is to be patient, because what I have mentioned in here, the project we have in here, we started like 2 years ago, and now we are seeing some results. I mean, it's not immediately. You don't see the changes from one day to the other. You need to be patient, and it takes time. That's the recommendation.
I think it certainly does take time, especially if you want to get a movement behind you. But you know, I think that's a good point. And Cindy, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Erin said. It's find somebody who's passionate about it, and they know the best people. They will have the best ideas, and then you can bring it to the board and get consensus at it later. Because I understand what Jennifer was saying, you know, sometimes when you're trying to change something, people don't want to go along with it, especially if they've been invested in doing something a certain way for quite a while. So good work, everybody.
Very good point. And I know, Jennifer, you're one of those passionate people that Cindy was just talking about. So let's turn it over to you.
I just have a quick recommendation. A couple of advocacy pieces in, we started reaching out to other organizations to see if they would collaborate with us on our statements and letters and efforts. And we found a good solid group of Latino Community Fund Georgia, Georgia Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents, those kinds of organizations that we can just reach out to and say, we're working on this and we're going to publish within 24 hours. Do you want in? And they do the same thing with us. And it increases the power of your voice. But I would definitely recommend doing that.
Yes, very good point. Well, thank you for that. And, maybe if no one else has any other recommendations, I'll turn it over to Lynn to do the last question. Let me just share that up on the screen here.
So again, maybe any of you can volunteer to answer this question. What are your organization's plans for advocacy in the future? Jorge?
Well, yes. I told you about the convention where we try to find a balance, but also we need to find a balance in our national board, because for strange reasons, our board has been formed by mainly female teachers or male teachers. Why? I have no idea. So what we need to find in here is a balance, let's say 50-50 or 60-40, because right now we have almost 90% male members, but in the past it was 100% female. So I don't know why this happens here in Mexico, but we need to find a balance in our national board, and that's a plan for the future. We need to work on that.
Okay, like go bigger to the national level as well. Yeah, thank you. And I see Cindy's hand, right?
One of the things we're working on is we have a bunch of resources we've created using the Teal Charitable Foundation Awards. And they're great. I put, oops, it didn't go in. I'll put it in the chat, the link to, we have one on indigenization in the EAL curriculum. It's a beautiful resource. It's hundreds of pages. It's got beautiful pictures. It's absolutely amazing. And it's sitting on our website. So my question is, how many people are using it and how well is it being implemented? So taking some of those resources, our literacy resource, we have one coming out this fall on LGBTQ issues, and actually getting them into the community and making sure they're being used well. So that's one of the things we'd like to work on.
Okay, thank you. And Jennifer?
Georgia TCell in October will have new leadership. That's our election. And the incoming president will most likely be Elizabeth Webb. Dr. Elizabeth Webb is incredibly passionate about advocacy, and I'm so glad that we've been able to work on this together so that we can see follow through for next year. But she planned this year an event called Georgia TCell Advocacy Days. And I know some of you panelists were able to join us, so thank you for that. But we are trying to empower the membership to become active in advocacy and to know how to advocate. So our next steps are looking at bringing that our membership into this advocacy effort.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember learning how to write a letter to the state senator and to our senator. And to me as well, personally, it's kind of like a muscle that you have to practice using. And the more you do it, maybe the more comfortable you are with doing it. I have to say that I'm not very comfortable yet, but I understand what you're saying in terms of encouraging everyone to contribute as well. Anyone else want to share your plans?
Yeah, I suppose we're going to continue with the work we're doing about native, non-native teachers, and also our green policies, like improving the app we're going to be using for the next convention and making sure all our publications are online. But I also think one of the things that came out of our last convention was the community of teachers. And so because of that, we've set up like a coffee morning and an afternoon tea session where members can join in. And we're trying to have different themes. And one of our hopes would be to have themes which are based on the advocacy issues and just listen to what our members need. But also what we're doing is we're also sending out a Google Doc to members and asking their opinion about what they feel are the issues that we should be working on. Because I think as well as some of the other people have mentioned that especially Jennifer, it's reaching out to your members and finding out what they need and responding to that. Because it's very hard for a board member to think, yeah, we're in touch with the teaching community and we know what kind of things are happening, but what is it that our members need? And that they're the people we need to be working with and helping with in the everyday teaching.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing.
And, I think a general thank you to all of you for, coming out yet again and doing, spending your time with us on a Saturday morning, or maybe for some an afternoon or evening. But, what I think is really interesting and why I think you're so dedicated and we're really grateful to have you with the AMPC is that you're not just here to talk about the things that you've done, but to help other organizations to pick up these ideas and run with them and seed them in different places. And so we wanted to make sure that we left a little bit of time for those of you who have joined us today and are hearing about these things for the first time to maybe ask some specific questions if you have any about ways that you might be able to adopt or take some of these takeaways home with you. And so I see that we've had a few questions in the chat that have been answered, but I want to open the floor up to all of you here to see if there's any questions that you would like to ask any of our panelists to help you with your future. So feel free to put anything in the chat or to turn on your microphones if you'd like to ask a question. Either one is fine.
So maybe a question from me first. So I'm just wondering, you're hearing from members, you're listening to your members about issues that may need to advocate for, but do you also keep track of policies that are being discussed and kind of be proactive about? Because my experience last year with international education, there were so many proposed policies that are going to hurt international students coming to the US, and we were very proactive in terms of signing petition and all those kind of things. So I'm just wondering if you also keep track of maybe the changes in the policies that may affect your membership in our profession. So a question to to the panelists here, if you can share. Aaron?
I was just going to say, that has been one of our questions as well as a board. How do we keep track? Particularly because, I mean, some affiliates cover like Texas and Georgia, I mean, Mexico, I mean, people who have to address issues that impact millions of people, right? And for NNET Soul, we're looking at 3 very low density population states. I think we might reach, like, we're less than 2 million people, I think, across all 3. But they're so unique, right? Each region has its unique issues. And so we are looking, we're trying to figure out a model for how do we elicit concerns and issues from our membership and let them get lost. Since we change our presidents every year, how do we build a bank of knowledge that we continue to act on? And so I'm not really offering a solution, really only saying that it's something that really does, we do have to figure out a way to be effective in keeping track of all of those issues.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the same in BC in that we have regional variations, but we also have sector variations. So we have a large the university sector. We have private language schools, plus we have language instruction for newcomers. And each of those has their own separate issues and things they need dealt with. We have in Bctl, we have sector reps for each of those, but even at that, it's like Aaron said, our roles change every 2 years in this case, but it is difficult to keep track of it and keep on top of it and follow up.
At our Georgia TCell Advocacy Days, one of the things that we recommended for our teachers, and I'll put the link to, well, it's a secondary link, however, because it's a link to our website, which has the link in it. But the Countable app is an app that I've had on my phone for a few years. It just shoots out an email when something related to something I care about is about to be discussed by important people. So I can reach out to my legislators and let them know how I feel about it with just a click. So it's pretty cool. But it is a way that we've encouraged our teachers here in Georgia to stay kind of in the know about what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it goes back to your suggestion of collaborating with other organizations, because usually we often hear about these issues from Naxa, from TCell. Naxa is the association for international educators here. So I was just thinking along those lines that sometimes we kind of, I think we contribute to stopping some policies being implemented or being ratified. So that's the issue of staying on top of some of the policies as well. So thanks for sharing.
And thank you for sharing all the links that you put in the chat today. It's been, I think, really beneficial for those that are with us today to be able to see real examples. It's always a good start. And thank you to all of you for coming out and presenting as panelists today. It was wonderful hearing about all of your advocacy efforts, and I hope that you will continue. One of the things that we like to do as the AMPC is to try to support all of the affiliates as best we can in a variety of different methods. And so, we have a couple of calls up on our My TCell page. So if you're interested in presenting with us at the convention, or if you have a best of affiliate session, we would love to hear from you. But I would like to turn it over now to our past president. Let me just share my screen again here. which is George Corpus there. We are very lucky to have him with us here today, and I'm always thrilled to have him back to talk a little bit about the Hornby Trust, which is another opportunity for affiliates to be able to dial in and maybe get some funds. So very glad to have you with us here today, George, and I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Jim. It's always a pleasure to be back. Just gonna share my screen for a couple of minutes and talk about the Hornby Trust. All right, so let's just go. So the Hornby Trust is an initiative that I'm really glad that we were part of for several years now. I think it's almost 5 years that we participate in. And the Hornby Trust does a lot of charity work around the world. So it did have an event of decentering ELT last year, where it talked about, how do we decenter ELT, and it was much interested in the continent of Africa. So there were several sessions with international speakers along with African speakers from different countries, moderators from around the world that know the African reality and how that can be achieved. Now, the ELT Journal was founded actually by the founder of the Hornby Trust back in 75 years ago. So that's a long time. And what do we do, and what does the ANPC and how we're involved is that by publishing and publicizing, this these scholarships and those awards, we give opportunities to different affiliates or groups that are not official, either groups or it can be like a school, or it can be any kind of entity that has a project that they want to do. So this year, they continue this project in cooperation with the British Council again. The application is due September 15th, so there's still some time. So if you do have groups that could benefit from this, as you see on the left, they have supported 15 teacher association projects in Argentina, Cameroon, Cuba, Ghana, Guinea, Honduras, India, Iraq, Kenya, Mali, Uganda, and Uzbekistan last year. So they're again looking forward to sponsoring and funding different kinds of groups this year. And we've had the luck of having different kinds of affiliates being part of that. So I'm going to post the link on the chat. So please do share it with your associations and maybe in your newsletters. And if you have questions, you can contact them directly. So I'll just post that on the chat. And thanks again, Jim, for giving me the opportunity to be back and also sharing the Hornby Trust opportunity for all our affiliates and teacher groups out there. Thank you. And great job, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you,
it's
George.
A pleasure to have you. Yeah, to have you and all the participants. And our upcoming webinars will focus on financing and budgeting, as well as revenue generation for affiliates. And we may send out calls for participation. And if you have expertise in those areas, we would love to hear from you as well. The date and the time haven't been decided yet, but we will share through my Tesol as well as our social media. So thank you so much for coming to share this session with us again, because I know you presented at the Advocacy Summit, and thank you.
Yes, thank you, everyone.